And I think this is a, walk before you can run scenario. So why would you expect to be able to play fluently with your arpeggios across the fretboard in the context of a song if you can't just put on C minor and play C minor across the range of the guitar? It's back, my series, Making the Changes, a series in which we look at how to use arpeggios to solo over jazz standards. The 12 episodes covered how jazz musicians use arpeggios to improvise with, and ultimately this requires you to have really good fretboard knowledge and a good ear. So season 2 is going to focus on these skills, on fretboard knowledge and the ear, so that you can have good command over your fretboard and so that you're able to create melodies with arpeggios. Last season I used Autumn Leaves because it's a fairly beginner friendly jazz standard. Chords also move in kind of very nice way in fourths. This season we're going to use Blue Bossa. So why is getting good fretboard knowledge difficult on the guitar? Well, what happens is we learn our arpeggios from the root, which you could play like this. And then what happens when we go to try and solo and use these arpeggios is our brain thinks from the root and we naturally gravitate towards playing everything from the root, the arpeggios in order and so forth. So they sound like arpeggios. Personally, I remember it took me a while to get beyond that point, and it wasn't until I practiced the arpeggios across the range of the fretboard did things kind of unravel for me. Because when I'm soloing, I might not use all of the arpeggio, I might use some of it, I'm going to bring in other ingredients also, along the lines of kind of this. And I found simplifying things the key to this. So, how many chords have we got in Blue Bossa? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7. So there's 7 chords in that song. So that's not many as jazz standards go, but that's a lot of, arpeggios if you're going to learn them across the fretboard. So the first thing to do to simplify things is just to work on C minor. And I don't think even C minor 7, just plain old C minor. And I think this is a, walk before you can run scenario. So why would you expect to be able to play fluently with your arpeggios across the fretboard in the context of a song if you can't just put on C minor and play C minor across the range of the guitar? Using the Game Changer Audio Pedal Plus here, I'm going to sustain a C minor chord and show you what I mean in terms of this. So if I was going to play C minor, say for instance, say I start here, the easiest way to play the arpeggio then is up from there, right? Like that. But I need to know underneath that as well. And it's a question of getting the vertical and the horizontal. I'll talk about how I visualize all of this in a minute, but look, C minor. Can I play it across the range of the fretboard? If I start from a 5th, where's my root? It's there, or it's there on the same string, horizontally and vertically. If I start on the 3rd, my 5th is up there, or up there. And that's essentially, you either know where these notes are on the guitar or you don't. These are just 3 notes. And this is what's difficult about the fretboard, is you can find the same thing everywhere. Let me just stop the pedal. Now you could find a drone or use a pedal like I've done there and just practice finding C minor across the range of guitar. I'll go through kind of how to visualize those things in a second, but why do that? There's not the threat of another chord change. You can really just dig deep in memorizing that, getting used to where those sounds are, different ways you can find it both vertically and horizontally. And I'd imagine a lot of you will be able to play a vertical C minor like that, maybe like off the E minor shaped bar chord, or like this off the A string. But if I said, right, play from the third, play from the fifth, start on the B string, start on the D string, that might be harder because you're having to jump in somewhere in the middle of the fretboard. And I think it's important we have some way of visualizing harmony on the guitar. And triads are really useful for this because we can easily add another note to them to make them a seventh chord or a sixth chord. And I would start in kind of position, if you like, first. So starting off the E string, we'd have 1, 3, that's a flat 3, 5. That's our first triad. Then our next triad. Then we run out of room in this position. There we get the root. There's the third, but if I wanted to get the 5, I'd have to go up like that. Put that together. So you can use that kind of big E minor shape, if you like, to visualize those triads there. One triad, the second triad, and then the third one, although we have to go horizontally to finish that. And, you know, a good way to practice that. Just in sequence, 1, 3, 5, 3, 5, 1, 5, 1, 3, so on. That's good to do that. The other classic place that I use would be off the A string with the A minor shaped bar chord to visualize it. So just starting from the root here, 1, flat 3, 5, then 1, flat 3, 5. We could get the root to finish it on the top. You also got the fifth underneath. So just being able to find that there. But then, you know, if I put you on the B string, could you play it? If I put you on the D string, you know, try practicing in different orders and so forth. So those are my kind of two typical guitar positions, if you like, that I use to visualize where minor harmony is on the guitar. And a little thing you could do against the drone is try and play 8 notes, but start from anywhere you like and try and change direction. So if I pick this shape down here, maybe I try and play 8 notes from the D string. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Or I could go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... I could obviously make a leap as well. Just practicing different things just to test my ability with it. Doing the 8 note thing is quite good because it's learning to fill a certain amount of space. And then to really unlock the guitar, what you want to add to that, those two shapes, I think, is the horizontal way of playing with triads inverted throughout the fretboard. So take triad off the G string with 1, 3, 5, then the next inversion of it, 3, 5, 1, next one, 5, 1, 3. That fourth one I'm playing is the first one, an octave higher. Then you've got both directions, and then I would do that off the D string. It's the same thing, right? Off the A string, off the E, and that gives you the full. Will give you the full range of the guitar. Obviously, some shapes you have to play in higher up in certain keys or whatever, but that's just unlocking the fretboard. Because the key thing is, like, if you're on this note C here, the reason I want the vertical horizontal kind of appreciation is it might make sense to play the third there, but it might make more sense to play it there because of what finger you started on or where you're going to. And how I experience this in the moment when I'm improvising, if the chord is C minor, I can feel those places on the fretboard as places I'm drawn to, sounds I know. I can hear, if I'm here, there's the root, there's the third. You know, I know what those notes are going to sound like before I play it. And all of these arpeggios. And what I would then do, you know, you've got those vertical and horizontal ways of playing them, is what you then do is put on your drone or just a static C minor 7 chord in the background, or C minor, and practice finding those chord tones across the range of the fretboard, both vertically and horizontally. Now I put my loop back on, and this is what you could do. You could use a drone, you could use just a C minor static backing track, just the one sound to play over. And practice, I made a list of kind of things you could do, things that would be important to sort of develop your knowledge, fretboard knowledge and your ear at the same time, right? So play those shapes that I did first off. But, do different things with them, do them down. You could also start in the middle. So if I start here, but I'm trying to play 8 notes, and I could go in different directions. So I went up and then back down. I could go. That's just from that one note, and I'd encourage you to start from different notes within it. You then got the horizontal approach. You can do it on one string. That's a great test of how well you know the fretboard. But then our triads. Tone down. What's going to happen over time, your ear's going to get familiar with the sound of the third, the fifth, and the different orders. And that's the kind of next thing I put here, vary the order, vary the direction, and so forth, like that. Up, down, go up, come back down. Try different combinations, like, 3, 5, 1. Because 3, 5, 1 could be 3, 5, 1 to that one, or it could be 3, 5, 1, 5, 1, 3. And it starts to become more like a melody. So you could come up with different combinations of those 3 notes. On the list also I've got, important thing, try to imagine the sound of the note before you play it. So if you're on a C, the third, da, sorry I played the wrong note, da, then the fifth, da, then the octave, da, 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 da. Make sure that you know the sound of the next note before you play it, and that means your ear's getting it and you're just not just learning the fretboard. Of course, that's an important part of this. We've also got sing or hum as you play as well, da 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 do do da do da do do, and so forth across the range of the fretboard. You obviously got other intervals within the arpeggio. So for instance, you could do C to C will give you root to root an octave. You got the minor third, root to third, root to fifth. Sort of learning the potential of the different sounds in the octave there. You got root to fifth, but then you got fifth to root. Learning the way the notes combine and learning to just try different things with them. I've also got here, triads can either be in one interval or in closed position. Yeah, that's a big topic in the sense that, like, say, this is a C major triad, right? But what if I put the third an octave higher? And so forth. That's maybe a thing for another day. You've also got things like the pivot, where you take, say, the root, and instead of going up like that, you go, instead of getting the third on the next string, get it underneath. So instead of 1, 3, 5, it's 1, 3, 5. Finding the third and the fifth below the root. Like that. Hopefully this is all just food for thought, really. Let me just turn this annoying thing off. So, the thing there is, like I said earlier, if you can't find those 3 notes across the range of the fretboard, what business have we got, like, trying to improvise then over chord changes? And I don't mean that in a critical way. I mean, it's it's quite humbling, really, isn't it? It's easy enough to learn arpeggios and arpeggio shapes. It's another thing then to be able to play them across the range of the fretboard, not get lost, know the sound of them and so forth, and use them in the moment. And I really do think it comes down to, really good guitar players and musicians. They know where these sounds are on their fretboard. I don't think about all these positions and things as I play. They're just kind of things which are unconscious up here. If the chord is that C minor, it's just a sound ingrained in me, and I can add other things there, like I played a second. There's other things you bring in, of course, beyond 1-3-5. But I think if you've got the patience to sit and practice over C minor, like I'm suggesting, you do that, I don't know, 5 days straight for half an hour, you're going to learn the fretboard. And, it's transferable then. Then you try the same thing with F minor, and it might be something that's actually more useful to you at this moment in time than practicing, one arpeggio to the next. The other neat thing, because we're doing this all from a perspective of understanding rather than just playing shapes we know or intervals and so forth, you could just change one note today, change it to a major third, and you've got C major. Or, like I say, move it around, you got F minor, the second chord of Blue Bossa. Anyway, I just wanted to start off this new season with just putting the idea out there about, well, what does good fretboard knowledge mean? And it means being able to play chord tones across the range of the fretboard and have an ear for those chord tones, that you're not having to, in the end, think it. You can just hear it. You kind of sense where those notes are. I know that sounds a bit vague, but that's what happens when you practice these things deeply. And thinking back, I did loads of practice against a static sound just to really drill these things. Because what I kept finding is the chord changes kept tripping me up. And what happened is it's just simply I didn't know the arpeggios well enough to be able to then cope with the demands of chord changes at speed. I've always likened it to kind of like, I don't know if you were out in the sea, just at the shoreline, and you get knocked over by a wave. The likelihood of then getting knocked over by a second wave is very likely, isn't it? So it's kind of like, one chord hits you, you get up, and then the next one, and it's just like you're constantly fighting that wave of different chords. So that's how I experienced it. And when I then play a standard with some weird changes, it can be like, whoa, what is coming at me? So that comes down to internalizing the form, but also having internalized the chord tones for those arpeggios. Now, the PDFs from today's lesson are available on the lowest tier of my Patreon page. The backing track that we'll be using for this series, Blue Bossa, is also on there too. As ever, if you've got any questions, you leave them below and I'll do my best to get back to you. Don't forget jazz guitar lessons every Monday. Please leave a comment on the video with your thoughts on this important subject. Until next time, you take care.